Living with Nousha. I'm Nousha, a former climber of the corporate ladder turned lifestyle entrepreneur. Each week, I'll bring you an inspiring message to support you in designing and creating a vibrant, fulfilling life. Thank you for joining me today. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome to Vibrant Living with Nousha. I'm Nousha, delighted to be here with you today and a very special guest, Mada Eliza Dalian. Welcome, Mada.
Thank you, Nousha.
Such a pleasure to have you, Mada. So friends, Mada is a modern day mystic. She's an internationally acclaimed self-healing master of healing and transformation, supporting people in their transformation.
And on a journey of self-realization.
Yes, and so Mada has been on the journey of spiritual growth and self-discovery for many, many years, from a young age, and since 5. Wow. And she has lived in India for 4 years, studying with Osho.
Yes.
And as well, she is the founder of the evolutionary Dalian Method to elevate health and consciousness. I'm very excited for you to share more about that. As well, Mada is a best-selling, multi-award winning author of 2 books. Book number 1, In Search of The Miraculous, Healing into Consciousness. And number 2, Healing the Body and Awakening Consciousness with the Dalian Method, an advanced self-healing system for a new humanity. So friends, I've had the pleasure of diving into the first book, In Search of the Miraculous, and Mada, I've been struck with the richness of wisdom, and friends, I thought it would be fun to share with you some of the wisdom in this beautiful book. And I've selected chapter 2 because it talks about the ego, but in a way that's different than what we're used to, because Mada beautifully demonstrates that we actually need to develop the ego. And so let's get started, Mada.
That's great.
Awesome.
Jump straight into it.
Let's do it. So let's start with, what is ego?
Well, first of all, let me say that ego is not a bad thing. Because the way we look at ego is, oh, this is ego, and oh, somebody's an egoist, and oh, this is negative and it's bad. We need to understand the ego so we can appreciate its existence. And it's there in the beginning, very importantly. It's like a shell of a seed. The seed needs a shell to protect it. So the ego we need that shell of the ego to protect us as we're growing and developing to the place of self-sustenance. In the beginning, we need the world, we need parents as a nourishment to take care of us, but then that's the phase of development of the ego, but then we need to come to a place where we can start recognizing the ego as the shell, and it's not part of us. And this is the part that we're missing.
Beautiful. So it has a purpose to support us in our growth and development at the beginning, but there comes a time where we need to let it go.
Then it becomes anti-productive.
Okay.
So, but we need to understand it in order to work with it instead of criticize it.
Wow.
Or look at it as a negative thing.
Wow. This is so profound because it's not talked about in this way. And friends, this is the book that I was sharing with you. And there's a beautiful sentence here and a passage that I want to share. And so the irony of spiritual growth is that the more conscious you become of your ego mind, the bigger it may appear to others, which I thought was so fascinating. The irony of spiritual growth is that the more conscious you become of your ego mind, the bigger it may appear to others. And then you go on to quote the Chinese mystic Lao Tzu, who shares, if you want to get rid of something, you must first allow it to flourish. It is impossible to transcend the ego mind without strengthening it and allowing it to flourish first. Fascinating.
Absolutely, because if the fruit is green, obviously, It doesn't taste good in the beginning because it's green, it's not ripe. But once it's ripe, it becomes more complete.
Right.
Same thing is with the ego. It needs to become more complete so that it could be let go of, it could be dropped. And it becomes more complete when consciousness starts developing simultaneously.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I love that analogy. It's like a fruit that's not ripe yet.
Yeah.
And when it's ripe, it drops. And like it drops
And
out of...
And we need to understand that we need to develop consciousness simultaneously with the ego.
Okay.
Because if consciousness is stagnating and it's not developing, and how consciousness stagnates is when we get attached to certain belief systems. And it becomes black and white. And that's all we stay with. And years pass, we grow, the body grows, the life continues, and obviously it has a certain beginning and an end in the middle. And if we do not start exploring the beliefs, then consciousness stagnates and does not develop, so therefore the ego does not develop to its mature state.
Wow. Okay, so let's move into what are the 7 stages of the development of the ego. Would love for you to go through that process so we have a better understanding of, okay, where am I moving towards?
So the first stage would be the foundation, so forming of the ego, obviously. Right. A child is born. And how does the formation of the ego happen is the moment that consciousness that was embodied in a physical form realizes that this is me and this is my body. And the first step, the first awareness of separation happens then. So that's the moment of the ego being born. When the child says, this is me, this is mine.
There's the identity.
There's already an identity with the ego, and that's where then the ego begins as, oh, I recognize that this is me and this is you.
Beautiful. And in your book, you share about that formation. Our ego mind in this stage of formation thus sees itself either as a powerful conqueror or a helpless victim. I found that fascinating. And you were sharing that that's the seed that creates the spiritual development for the rest of the stages.
Yes, and that very much depends on the person's experience at a very young age.
Yes.
So if that person has been supported by parents, by the environment, then it will have a more healthy, more positive self-image.
Yes.
But if the person has had traumatic experiences, has gone through control and repression and not allowing to grow naturally. It's like, taking a child, putting the child in a box. So obviously what would happen, it cannot feel that this is my life and I can expand and I'm happy to be alive. So then the vision of oneself,
yes,
then you start seeing yourself as a victim because I've been put in this box.
Wow, so powerful. And then stage 2, strengthening. After feeling dependent on others for its survival in the formation stage, as you mentioned, the ego mind moves into adolescence and strives for independence.
And that's the natural stage when the child growing up realizes that now I'm independent. I can take care of myself.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, every child has the awareness to know that my survival depends on my parents. If I do not say what they say, then my survival is at stake. So therefore, children always have to say yes, and they repress their fears.
Wow.
And when they repress their fears, that's already repressing the growth of the ego. That's already repressing what they feel, so they would not say what they feel. They would not say, I'm afraid. And therefore, the ego is already been damaged in its first phase of development. And then what happens when a teenager, and not, of course, every person's life is different. And in general, when a person comes to the second stage, and in the second stage, just imagine a teenager who recognizes, well, now I can take care of myself, now I can leave home. And that's why so many teenagers rebel against parents.
Yes.
rebel against what they have been saying yes to all up till then.
Yes.
Because it's off balance.
Yeah.
Because they haven't been allowed to say no, so they have to balance somewhere.
Yes.
To feel that now I have power. Before I was powerless, now I'm powerful. But that's still a reaction of the ego of the toward the wound, and it's not necessarily
an empowering place to
empowerment.
stand.
Yes, that's right. However, that helps to strengthen the ego in some way, because for ego to strengthen, it needs to be self-empowered.
But not as a reaction to rebelling against your parents, but as a stand to, I can see a better way, I'm creative, I'm
capable,
innovative.
I can do this, and I have my own visions and desires and feelings of what I can do. So that would be more of an open road energy flow. But when it's a reaction, and many people are stuck in the reaction.
Okay, so Mada, stage 3 is
suffering.
Yes, and I have in the book here, in the same way that, I love this, that coal transforms into a diamond under great pressure, pain and suffering are absolutely necessary for the development of our ego, mind, and consciousness. The pressure of suffering helps to transform our unconscious into consciousness. Wow. Love that.
And it's funny, I'm cheerfully saying, yes, suffering.
Yeah.
Well, suffering we cannot avoid.
Yeah.
And the suffering, as a matter of fact, that's a phase that both the so-called wounded ego and the ego that thinks I can do everything, the strong self-empowered ego, they both need to go through. Because in each case there's different lessons to be learned. In one case it needs to be learned that I'm not the center of the universe. I'm not, everything does not revolve around me, which the healthy positive ego might think, or self-empowered ego might think. And the wounded ego, the ego that believes I'm a victim, goes through suffering, and the part of the process of that suffering is early on, in a way. So we do go through different phases simultaneously.
Yes.
Does not necessarily have to be separate. I'm finished phase 1, I go to phase 2 or to phase 3. But the phase of suffering, it's part of the awareness that comes in through suffering, that there's other people are like me, and I'm not separate from them. Whether if I had had traumatic experiences, suddenly I see that, other people might have had as well similar experiences or worse. So it does not make me special because I've had all these terrible traumatic experiences, because in that way the ego is also becomes self-righteous. So both the parts of the ego become self-righteous. I'm self-righteous because I suffered and I wasn't given what you received, for example, from your parents.
Yes.
And I was, I was beaten up and I was abused, etc. And you had a very easy life. So that's a self-righteous belief.
Yes.
And the person that feels, I can do anything, I'm on top of the world, that's also a self-righteous belief. So both need to go through suffering to recognize it's the ego that's saying these things. They're beliefs. It's not me. It's got nothing to do with me, who I am as a person.
Yes. Oh, so rich. So friends, Mada has very generously given everyone an opportunity to get a discount on her 2 beautiful books. So we are just scratching the surface. And if you are inspired to learn more, then I invite you to go to NoushaBehbahanian.com under the resources section. It is such an honor to have Mada as one of our vibrant community service partners, and all her information is there, as well as some other CDs and retreats and all kinds of really amazing things. So let's continue with phase 4, which is contemplation. In this stage, the most fundamental questions like, who am I and why am I here begin to arise, and you try to understand the causes of your suffering. And as you so beautifully said, it could be in the positive side or the negative side of the ego, and then we start to question, like, what is going on? I don't get it. I thought I was on top of the world, or why don't I have what that person has, or
and sometimes you want to have it and you do everything and you think I deserve it, and existence says no.
Yes.
And there's blockages on the path, and that creates suffering as well.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so therefore contemplation is naturally a process of natural development.
Yes.
Then if consciousness developing, if the person is using their intelligence, which many times people don't even know that they can use their intelligence, then they will start thinking, why are these things happening? They will start asking questions like a scientist.
Yes. And I love how you refer to being the scientist of your own kind of
inner world,
human experience. Your own inner world. And I love that. And friends, part of Mada's work is really to empower us to be self-directed. And that's one of the things I love, is that it's not to rely on anything, but really to go through our own process and find the answers for ourselves, because no one else can do it for us. So stage 5 is introspection. The humility and suffering of the contemplative stage gives rise to the introspective stage, where instead of focusing outwardly to find answers, you move your attention inwards. And we were just sharing about that. And then stage 6, which is the stage of healing.
Yes.
Healing into consciousness. And I love this stage because a lot of times we rely on external things like doing affirmations or self-help books, and of course these help a little bit. And as I was reading your book, you have a beautiful passage here. At first you attempt to heal your wounded ego mind with the mind itself, using counseling, psychotherapy, affirmations, and reading self-help books. Trying to heal your wounds using the positive mind accomplishes some results. However, unless you're willing to go into your body's cellular memory to feel, understand, and release the initial imprints and conditionings suppressed there, you will not be able to fully recognize and disidentify from the illusion created by the wounded ego that believes itself to be wounded. Share with us a little bit more about that and how we can move into transcendence. And as for the healing section, you also mentioned to heal into consciousness, don't judge or suppress your ego, welcome it, accept it, and observe it as a detached witness. So
part of the healing phase, healing, in my view, doesn't mean fixing something so that the ego is comfortable. Healing means transforming the ego into consciousness. And if we're going to view healing in that respect, then we'll see that our body is giving all the signals that we need to look inside and discover what is the body telling us in the cellular memory, because all our experiences are in the cellular memory, all our beliefs are in the body cellular memory, which is part of the unconscious, which is part of the shadow, as people used to say. But shadow is not a bad thing. It's not a horrible thing. It simply means that there's things there you're not seeing.
Right.
Consciousness means you bring light and you recognize that I haven't seen their lesson in this experience. The moment you see it, the light comes in, the consciousness comes in, and the healing happens automatically. The body follows consciousness.
Wow.
The body automatically heals itself when the lessons are learned and the light comes in, transforming the blockages that are caused by the shadow or the unconscious beliefs in the body.
Yes. And then we move to stage 7, which is...
Stage 7 then becomes a stage where the fruit is ripe, and then you recognize all the tricks that the ego plays. And then you recognize the attachments to the ego, to the people, to the world, recognize the temporariness of the world. And in that stage, basically you understand that my journey continues. Therefore, I have to let go of the ego, because the ego has prevented me from knowing the universe, from being the universe, from knowing that I'm a cosmic being. Because only intellectually saying I'm a cosmic being it's useless.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You need to have the awareness of being a cosmic being. In that awareness of transcendence, when that happens within, it's like the base metal turning into gold, the alchemy,
Mm-hmm.
inner alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
Then what happens is the peace automatically happens.
Mm-hmm.
The awareness of the being present in the now automatically happens.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to work at it, because you cannot work at being present in the now thinking I have to be in the now.
Wow.
What you need to do is recognize what is preventing you from not being in the now, and those things are your beliefs. It's like programs in the computer. They just run the show in the energy, and they leak your energy outwardly, or they leak toward those beliefs, and therefore you cannot be in the now because your attention is going out.
Amazing, because friends, I'm sure you'll agree, one of the challenges for us as being human is to be present. Eckhart Tolle beautifully shares that with being here now, and we find it that we're either in the past or in the future. And I love your view on this. It's so powerful, and it explains why we can't be present. And when we are able to transcend our ego, we are able to really naturally, without having to effort, just be here now, because that is our natural state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the question is, the big question, Nousha,
Yes.
is, and continues to people need to ask, then, okay, we hear these concepts,
Yes.
but how can I transform those beliefs that are in my body and in the cellular memory?
Yes.
That's why I created the system, the Dalian Method,
Yes.
so that people can actually have the tool
Yes.
to transform those things. And it's been proven 100%
Wow.
that as people go deeper into that
Yes.
cellular memory, which the method helps them do,
Yeah.
then the healing and transformation of all these phases,
Yes.
you go through each phase, then you strengthen the ego if it needs to be strengthened.
Yes.
You increase your consciousness. The system does all these things for you, and at the same time heals the body automatically, because it works. Now we're jumping into talking about the system, but I think it ties in, and that's why the second book came after the first one.
Yes.
Or the system.
Healing the Body and Awakening Consciousness. This is the second one. And again, friends, this is these are the two books that Mada is generously, thank you so much, offering us a discount so that we can enjoy. And Mada, I've had the experience, the honor of experiencing the Dalian Method, and friends, wow, it's unlike anything I have ever experienced. And like you say, it is really a cellular experience, and there were things that I never even knew
that were there
that were unearthed and shifted so many things. And you know, as we explained the 7 stages of the ego, I found myself looking at those stages and going, oh wow, okay, that explains that, and really, and that is what inspired me to have Mada here to share more with us. And so Mada, I've experienced the Dalian Method, absolutely loved it, and I look forward to engaging in the process more now. Is it suitable for teens and children? And if so, like, how old do you need to be?
I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah.
Because we have to begin this from the early on, so that we can eliminate a lot of the suffering. To backtrack, I began exploring the human condition, obviously with myself, since very early on.
Yeah, age of 5, you
Age
were
of
saying.
5, when I witnessed my grandfather's death, I realized I will be dying as well. So therefore, the question was, I need to know who I am, and what am I doing here, and where am I going to go? And that seemed to be the most important questions to answer.
So you were in your stage of suffering to have witnessed that, and then you went into contemplation.
Well, at 5 years old, I was in a stage of developing, but you know, but then have that awareness, it sort of brings you through all the stages in a very jet speed way.
Yes. Yeah.
Because normally, many times, people ask those questions toward the end of their life. So for me, I began asking in the beginning, and it became very clear that's the focus I have to take for the rest of my life. And that's what took me on a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so after going through my own, obviously a lot of the healing process and a lot of the contemplation, meditation, strengthening my inner witness, disidentifying from the wounds that the ego feels I'm wounded, because I didn't have very smooth childhood after my parents were separated.
Mm-hmm.
And so all that helped me once I had the experience of realizing that what the ego is just a bunch of ideas
Mm-hmm.
and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And once the disidentification with that happens, suddenly you jump into a cosmic awareness that I am not separate from the whole universe, so therefore there's no fear of the unknown. And that liberates you from the bondage of the ego, because the ego is afraid of the unknown, and that's what keeps people in itself, and people have a hard time to see that.
Yes.
So after that, for me it was like, okay, now I understand the journey is the goal, and I'm going to continue journeying through the universe. There's no beginning, there's no end. Now everything is relaxed. There's only to be here now.
Yes.
There's nowhere else to be.
Yeah.
So then I started, obviously, you go, okay, now what next?
Yeah, because you're an embodiment of the ultimate.
Well, we always
being.
have a goal, right? So then when the goal is, I want to know myself. So you reach that experience, and then you go, okay, now my goal I reached in a way.
Yes.
And so now what's next?
Yes.
Right?
Wow.
And at that point, I began. I always had the curiosity about human condition, and also why is it so difficult for humans to actually jump out of the ego state? Obviously, I experienced the difficulties, but not as much, because I didn't really go around. I went more direct line from early on.
Yes.
But a lot of people go through many dead-end streets.
Yes.
And they go through a lot of suffering as a result, which does not need to be there. And so I started exploring, how are these healing methods helping people to heal those unconscious beliefs inside? And I realized that there's so much missing. It's just focus is on fixing the ego, and it's like there's no way you're going to come out of it, because it's the hamster wheel.
Wow.
And how are you going to come out of the hamster wheel if you're trying to fix the wheel?
Yes.
So, and then I started exploring the energetically, because now with the awareness it's a different story. You know that we're not fixing, we're transforming. We're looking into the unconscious. How can we access the unconscious in the body? And as I started working with people, which was never my interest to be a healer or do healing work or develop a healing system,
interesting.
That became very obviously how then the whole body, I saw how the whole body works, how all the chakra system work, how from head to toe everything needs to be involved in the creation of the healing process.
Yes. Yes.
The history from the past, the ideas, the beliefs from the past that are in the body, what is happening in the present, and how far the consciousness has developed. All that needs to be worked on all at the same time.
Wow.
And that's how the system surfaced.
Yes.
And from that time, as I was working with people one-on-one, I realized that now I need to create something that people can use on their own. Because I'm one person, and this is a very valuable tool for people to use to fast-track their journey, because I like fast movement. And
Beautiful.
that's how the adult version was born.
Yes.
Self-healing adult version.
Yes.
Of the Dalian Method. And then I realized that now we need to really start helping teens and children, because I have a lot of passion for children. I wish somebody helped me when I was a child, not to have to go through all those phases of suffering.
Exactly.
So that's how now we have a Dalian Method for teens, for children, and for young adults.
Wow. Mada, this is so powerful, and I'm so excited by what's possible for the planet to heal into consciousness, as you so beautifully share
And
in
we're
your
ready.
book. Yes.
We're ready. We've done everything. We've prepared everything. We're ready to take the self-responsibility for self-transformation.
Yes.
And this is all it is all about. And this is the tool for it.
Yes. Beautiful. And so you've been such a tremendous contribution to elevating health and consciousness, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. I understand it's just getting started as to what's possible.
Yes.
What do you see as the future vision, mission for continuing to elevate health on the planet?
Well, self-responsibility is number one. People need to understand that nobody can do it for them because it's their own life.
Mm-hmm.
They're created the life.
Mm-hmm.
They're holding on to the ideas.
Mm-hmm.
They're holding on to the beliefs. So the vision for the planet is for people to mature, because we need to evolve. And why we're in such a mess is because the evolution of individual consciousness has been sidetracked. People going in a direction that is a dead end. And just imagine for a second, if everybody was taking responsibility for their own life, discovering their own talents, living their own truth without any blame, without any competition, without trying to, demean or destroy somebody, and take that individually, that concept, and bring it into nations. So if enough individuals start doing that, it's a mass of consciousness, then the nations will naturally have to transform. Because if that happens, then there'll be no wars. If there's no wars and everybody living their own creativity without restrictions, I mean, this is paradise if that happens.
Yes.
But obviously it's everybody's, in a way, the unconscious or conscious wish that we could live this way.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I must say, I don't know if this is the destiny of this planet, because we keep repeating history over and over again. Atlantis all over back now, because who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But perhaps this planet is giving it such a blessing to all these souls that are coming here to transform, because that's what ultimately universe wants. Those energies to transform into consciousness, so that the mass of consciousness can grow. And as a matter of fact, the epilogue of my book, I have written what I had the vision in 1990.
Wow. Beautiful.
Of how the light eventually takes over, and I saw that happening on this planet. So there is enough conscious people on the planet today, but they need to, in a way, also wake up, because you have to be absolutely honest with your transformation. You cannot really blame anyone if you have anything in your life that is not really working. It's you created it. Your beliefs are creating it, so you need to take responsibility by looking in and saying, why do I have these thoughts? What are my lessons? So my hope is that more and more people recognize it's not about fixing, it's about learning lessons, evolving, expanding consciousness, and enjoying the life in the now.
Wow, so beautiful. And friends, again, I highly recommend this book, In Search of the Miraculous, Healing into Consciousness. Again, Mada's generously offering a discount for us to be able to purchase this book, enjoy it, share it with your family. And you also have some amazing videos as well that people can look into. And to close, Mada, I want to thank you so much for being here, taking the time, for creating the Dalian Method. Very, very powerful. And I wanted to close with a passage from your website, which I love, which so beautifully shares who you are to the world. Enlightenment is a state of perfect knowledge or wisdom combined with infinite compassion. It is said that out of 1,000 beings who become enlightened, only one becomes a master who is capable of individually guiding others out of the complexities of their personal illusions. Mada Eliza Dalian is one such rare being. Thank you.
Thank you.
So friends, thank you for being a part of this very important conversation. And if you can think of anyone that can benefit from this conversation, then please do take a moment to share it. The ripple effect is immeasurable. And until next time, be vibrant, be bright. It's your birthright. Now, let's go out there and shine our light.
Namaste.
Thank you for investing this time with me on the Vibrant Living with Nousha podcast. I'm so glad that you joined our conversation. If you would take 2 minutes to positively impact someone's life by sharing this episode, that would be wonderful. Please leave us a review by visiting iTunes. Let us know what you enjoy and what you'd like to see more of. It will support us on our journey to causing a worldwide epidemic of vibrant living. Until next time, be vibrant, be bright. It's your birthright. Now, let's go out there and shine our light.